congratulate NHRC on its birthday and wish it many, many more. I'm so thrilled that there's a trade association of housing counselors that speak up for the industry and for the concerns that counselors have nationwide. And NHRC, you do a fabulous job of leading and being the voice. So thank you for all you do, and looking forward to many more years of success.
We're going to get started because why stop the party when you can get rolling? So I'm going to get going. Ebony, let me know if there's anything I need to do differently, and we'll certainly revisit Sarah's remarks if we can. Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming together. I have to say, for those of us at NHRC, this is deeply meaningful, and I've really appreciated everything that people have been saying and sending, and kind of the excitement around all this. So thank you. We're 10 years old. It's really great. Let me give you a quick idea of what we're going to do. We've blocked out 2 hours. And the idea here is to spend the first hour kind of talking about what we've done and the lessons we've learned. There's actually a lot of ground that we've covered, so we won't touch on everything, but so I'm interested just to see what our panel has to say and how people think about it all, but also what's useful from that we might think about for the next 10 years. And then the second panel will be really about the next 10 years and what should we be doing, and let's be ambitious, let's think about big things, let's put things out on the table, and what we'd like to do is also ask that you participate in this as well. So part of this would be that you would put in the chat box ideas you've got about things. Actually, start out with your favorite highlights about NHRC, or a particular meeting you went to, or an issue we worked on, or maybe there's some funny thing that happened, some surprising reaction from some policymaker, whatever you kind of think about what was adventuresome or interesting, put it into the feed, and we'd love to hear from you. We'll mention a few of the highlights as the day goes on. And then this afternoon, in the more further forward looking, we'll still be glad to take those, but we'll also be interested in any thoughts you've got about things we can do on the Leaders in Housing Counseling calls. That we do have the ability to bring together lots of expertise and information, and we would love to hear if you've got some breaking things that you think we should be working on or elevating. And certainly any ideas you've got of issues we should be working on, we always want those, and please put them in the chat. I'm going to do 2 quick things. One, which is just an intro of the first panel, and then we'll do one in the hour on the second panel. And then I'll talk just a bit about the mission, the purpose of NHRC when we first started. And then we're going to turn it loose and have everybody jump in. I want to do one thing before we do that, which is we do have an alert about an emergency Leaders in Housing Counseling call we're going to do on Monday. And we have just recently learned that the tools that FHA is using to help people get out of the COVID-related forbearances into a long-term affordable situation have been knocked out of whack a little bit because of the increase in property values and the formula that they use. And the result, as the Philadelphia Fed just concluded in a study, is that of the people that need to get some kind of a loan modification, some kind of a resolution, that only 12% will actually qualify. We'll have the National Housing Law Project in and the National Consumer Law Center experts in to talk with us. We are also very interested in hearing from you if you're a foreclosure counselor, to get what you're seeing in the field, and if you've already seen some of this, and certainly we want to hear about thoughts about what can be done about it. So we're posting in the chat what the link is to register for that. It'll be on Monday at noontime Eastern. It'll be 1 hour long, and for those participating in other meetings, will be done by the time they start. I know there's a HUD meeting going on. So with quickly on that, one quick thing. So NHRC, when we first started it, we had a mission statement, as a lot of you all do. And just to summarize what we were trying to accomplish, there were two parts to it. So the first part was to expand housing counseling and really put it on the map. So the idea was there's 1,600, or actually a few more, actually more than that, housing counseling agencies at the time. And we wanted to make them into a political force, to really gather them together, gather you all together, and have you really get involved in policy and program making. And so everywhere from sign-on letters to doing lots of meetings and getting housing counseling to be much more engaged with the public policy process and being seen as an important part of integrating housing counseling into some of the housing solutions in America, and also kind of being a forward-looking expertise of what's happening in the field and how do we make those things work better, which you all have, I mean, I have to say, you all have done brilliantly. This has been a huge effort of collective action, and we're really impressed with how much everybody steps up on these things. We want to be a platform for sharing some information. We're not a training organization. You have excellent training organizations that do that. But where there's a breach, like on student loans, we quickly put together a team of experts to do student loan trainings and trained over 1,500 housing counselors on the basics of how to help people get out of how to get the best solutions on student loans. We'll continue to do those occasional things, but we're not trainers. There's many groups that do that well. We're working on increasing public awareness of housing counseling, and some of you'll see some slides from all of that in the plan, and we'll talk maybe about it. And we're interested in building the sustainability of housing counseling. So part of that reflects on the HUD funding, but it also reflects on the work we did to get the NeighborWorks grants out on housing counseling, or the support we've done with other groups on fee for service. And the second part is that we want to work on increasing housing opportunity for low and moderate income people and for people of color. We want to be able to help deliver and to actually help shape the debates around the housing opportunity. And as you know, there's many challenges in that field and huge gaps, and we want to be involved in those things. And I have to say that our collective action has been really valuable, and we are much more recognized. And a big thank you to all of you for that. So be sure to use the chat for your thoughts and good memories and things we should know about. But let me do a quick intro of our first panel. So we're going to open with David Berenbaum from the Office of Housing Counseling. Love the fact that he's doing the great work he is. Actually, I'm not going to say things. I'm going to just introduce quickly so we can get to the heart of this. So David Young from Housing Action Illinois, Simone Griffin from Home Free USA, Lou Tisler from National NeighborWorks Association, James Ruddick from the Northwest Center, Angela Davidson from NHS Brooklyn, Ibajoki Akanabwale from NCRC, Karen Hausneck-Yetman from Belmont Housing, Susan Fitz for CCSMD, Lot Diaz from Unidos US, Debbie Chandler from ARC, Sylvia Alvarez from HEA in Tampa, Jennifer Murphy from the Housing Council of America. So what a great panel, what great people. Thank you all for your contributions. You all are voices that people hear from us in many of our meetings already, but we would love to open the door. So let's start out with David.
Thanks so much, Bruce, and hi, everyone. I'm looking forward to hearing Sarah's remark. Her wonderful and warm smile, even though we couldn't hear what she was saying, was just heartwarming to start off the program, right? She's just a dear friend of the housing counseling community. Today, it is my honor on behalf of HUD Secretary Fudge to congratulate the National Housing Resource Center and each of its board members and member organizations on celebrating your 10th anniversary. First, Bruce, I cannot thank NHRC and you enough for your 10 years of leadership, collegiality, and impact in the housing counseling industry. NHRC, each of you has so much to be proud of. From my perspective, over the past 10 years, and I'm sure the list is much, much longer, you have lifted the voices of your members to the national level to shine a light on the housing challenges that families across the nation are experiencing. And more importantly, you have served them with professional and pride to make a difference. You have engaged in critical conversations to find solutions to housing challenges with key stakeholders such as Congress, housing regulators, financial service industry representatives, and nonprofit affordable housing partners. You've successfully pivoted when necessary in response to changes in the marketplace. You've identified promising new program models and shared them with your membership so that they can be replicated and tailored to meet local needs and taken to scale. You've collaborated with the public and private sectors to develop innovative solutions at a systemic level that are responsive to the needs of consumers and housing counselors. And you've connected your members to a broad range of subject matter experts to encourage information exchange and in-depth discussions that would inform and further work taking place in communities, again, across the nation, but having local impact. The list of accomplishments goes on and on and on. Thank you, NHRC, for being such an outstanding champion for housing equity for individuals and families facing housing challenges across the country, especially low to moderate income families and communities of color. Thank you for partnering with the department and, of course, the Office of Housing Counseling. We depend on your leadership and members' in-depth knowledge and your expertise to improve our policies and programs to be more responsive to the needs of housing counselors and consumers. The department sincerely appreciates your partnership with us, and we look forward to continuing to work closely with NHRC for many years to come, as Bruce noted, in the coming decade. Best of luck, and thank you for inviting me to participate in the celebration today, and I look forward to our discussion. Thank you.
So great. Thank you, David. So let's open up the floor. Who would like to jump in? Sylvia, you're never shy. Oh, can't hear you.
You beat me to the punch because I was going to jump in. Bruce, Ellie, and the rest of the team, I really echo the words that David said. You guys have done so much. And just to give you a little bit of my history with NCRC, I remember when going to Phoenix to have a meeting with Unidos, and actually it was NCLR at that time, and they were thinking of doing pretty much the same thing that you were doing. And you did a presentation for all of us in the room, and when you were done, we all went, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. This guy's got it. So we were so happy that you did what you did at the time that you did it, when it was so badly needed. We had the housing crisis was in, full bloom, and there was no one that really carried the message to us, from us to Washington, and you did. And from there, it was just so many wonderful events. I remember going with you to Capitol Hill, and we knocked on many doors and spoke to many of our elected officials. We went to Los Angeles. You had a huge conference over there. Then back to DC, you had another huge meeting there. And you just really were able to get us all together and with one voice, which is something that we really needed. Very grateful to you, Bruce, Ellie, Christy, Ebony, Eric. You guys have just really taken on this cause like it's personal. And thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are a great leader, Bruce Dorpalen. And we even gave him an award at this big event that we have every year that honors people in housing in different areas. And Bruce, very reluctantly, he did it kicking all the way because he didn't want to go, but we gave him the leadership award, which was the biggest award that anyone could get at that time. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are just the best, and we needed you. So thank you for showing up at the time that you did.
Thank you. And so other high points people want to emphasize. This was great. And what I should just say, Unidos US is just such a great collaboration history. It's you know, it's remarkable how they built that into their whole model. That's been really helpful too. But yes, so others want to jump in?
I have a very early memory.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. You do.
So you and I were in Washington, D.C. at an I think we were meeting with HUD, but I'm not really sure. And we started talking, and we both were going back on Amtrak on the same train. And this must be like 2009, 2010. So Bruce gets off in Philly and I get off at the next stop in Trenton. So we took the train back together, and we started chatting about just like the state of things at that time. And I had a grant opportunity. I was working at the Center for New York City Neighborhoods at the time. So I had a grant opportunity from the Ford Foundation. They wanted me to bring housing counselors together. He basically, he said we needed to get our bleep together. And that was George McCarthy, for those of you who knew him. And I didn't know how to even begin doing this. New York City might think it's the center of the world, but it really isn't. And, Bruce knew everybody. So I think we brought Bruce in as a contractor, or paid your organization for your time. We did something to bring Bruce in, but that led to a big gathering in Baltimore that Bruce and I co-hosted, and our planning committee on that, I think, turned into the first advisory committee for NHRC, didn't it, Bruce? Most of the people.
But the idea was, can we make housing counseling an activist organizations, and
get our bleep together.
People really stepped up, and that was really interesting. It was at the Baltimore Fed. And, you know, we just thought, well, that's possible. And then when things took a change in my previous career, it kind of made sense to take the next step. But that was really helpful. And
well, you definitely took it the next step. And I don't think I knew I couldn't have pulled it off without you. But what I want to say about you and NHRC is what I say to all the organizations that I work with, that I encourage to join NHRC, is you're the biggest tent. There's lots of intermediaries, there's lots of networks, but you encompass everyone. And I think that's been the game changer, because we can put aside our rivalries, and we do have rivalries. We're all different. We have, we have different agendas and different plans, but we can all come together and agree on the things that are most important. We get the rest of the country to do that, how successful would we be, right? So, you know, you've really given us a place to go, and created a sense of community and advocacy that I don't think was there before. You really should take a bow for that. Congratulations on 10 years. I can't believe it. For some, it feels like it's been forever in some ways, but it also feels like it went like that. So congratulations.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on what Jennifer said. I feel like the best thing that we got from NHRC is exactly what it was designed for, which is really bringing together this industry, advocating on behalf of the industry. Because I remember when NHRC was first an idea in your minds, Bruce, we were all separated, and as a result, we had lost funding, and there was just no level of coming together. And through NHRC, through the coalition of HUD intermediaries and so many other groups that have formed, with NHRC, I think, really taking the helm in this, we started off, my earliest memories are going to all of these meetings that you set up on the Hill with the regulators and all of that. Those were incredibly impactful because they created a uniformity and visibility that, not to say housing counseling had no visibility before, but it was one-off. It was an organization here or an organization there, an intermediary here, an intermediary there. So to bring together multiple intermediaries and local housing counseling agencies who were very well aware of this congressperson or that regulator and the things that they had, that they were concerned about. NHRC and you, Bruce, did a phenomenal job with making sure that the right people were in the room to have the conversations, and both the right people on the federal side as well as the right people on our side, making sure that we could speak directly to their concerns and address them in a succinct manner that I feel they heard. Whether we got all of our goals accomplished was almost secondary to the fact that I felt we were finally being heard and recognized. And that, I feel, is probably the most pivotal thing that NHRC as an organization has really done. Again, in addition, and it's helped us formulate ourselves as we already knew we provided a massive service to the industry. We needed everybody else to know that. And so as a result of NHRC and several other things, I feel like the last 10 years were much stronger as an industry than we were prior to that. And so that is kudos to NHRC and the work that you've done, Bruce, the work that Ellie has done, Eric, Ebony, and all the people who even came before the current team members, because they were all pivotal in the work of NHRC. So thank you, guys.
So Bruce, if I could just, when Simone talks about those meetings at the White House, that was really the first time that I had been to a meeting that people from the White House listened as opposed to talk. And I think that, the collaboration, the facilitation, the professionalism, the circus ringmaster, that you are, Bruce, and NHRC really got the attention of the Beltway. But more importantly, I think that in the past 10 years, you've elevated the professionalism of housing counseling. A lot of times those who run organizations would be like, yeah, we got housing counselors and they're doing this. And now we have certified housing counselors that are professional and they know what they're doing. Not that they didn't know before, but they have the cachet and they have the advocacy behind them with NHRC. And as Simone said, the staff that you have now is incredible. I remember when the staff was Bruce and, people coming through. And so to build an organization over those 10 years, to be sitting with Charlie Dent, to have HUD finally say, and this was before we had a great advocate like David there, that yes, we need to put some marketing behind what we're doing. And Lou needs to learn how to shut his cell phone off before going on camera. But I think that what NHRC has done in the past 10 years has really elevated the field in the field of housing counseling and has really said, okay, Banks, you said you did housing counseling, but that was to promote a product. We're promoting financial resiliency. So I want to say thank you to Bruce. Thank you to the board of NHRC. Thank you for the collaborations that you've done. And when we talk about the next 10 years, I'm hoping that we could talk about exponential growth in moving it forward. So again, thank you for all you've done in the past 10 years.
Hey, everybody, I'm sorry I had to join late. I did let Bruce and Ellie and Ebony know that that I was going to, but I just want to chime in. I'm Laura Bucksbaum from Coastal Enterprises in Maine, and I think we didn't join right at the very beginning, but I do remember for a few years here in Maine feeling very lonely advocating for housing counseling, and we had as we still do, a key senator here on the HUD Appropriations Committee. We advocated very hard for housing counseling after it was zeroed out that year. But there weren't a lot of organizations out there doing that. NCRC certainly did, and there were a few others, but there wasn't anybody bringing us all together until we joined NHRC, and it just was a tremendous sense of relief and support to be able to meet with peers and to have to know that others were going to their congressional delegations with the same message that we were, and having some of that entree that other people have mentioned to the department, to the administration. So I just want to add my thanks and a little bit of that story. Thanks.
And I'll chime in here, Bruce. Evie Jo Kimbawali from NCRC. I think we're all just going to keep putting you on a spot here today, Bruce. So I'll say one of my most notable memories is probably something that you don't even know about. And that is when I interviewed for my role as the director of our housing counseling network. One of my questions was, or who are you going to call on if you like need resources or help? Like, who are you going to get information from? And my first response was Brewster Palin. Because I knew that you'd have the answers and you'd have the resources and be able to plug us in. And so I really want to commend you and the entire NHRC team for being a tremendous resource for the field and for advocacy, for accountability and collaboration. No other space can I think that I'd be on a Zoom with two of my predecessors within my organization.
Oh, right.
And many of my colleagues whom I love and know, and we work on these housing counseling efforts together. And so when I think of NHRC and what it's meant in the last 10 years, has definitely been a consistent partner. Despite changes in leadership at various organizations and changes in administrations, NHRC has been a connector and calling for accountability and steady advancement of the work that we do. And so a really big hats off on this milestone achievement, and a much well-deserved thank you for all that you guys have done to elevate the field that we love.
Bruce, can I jump in with a reflection for really a quick moment?
Yeah.
So in advance of the meeting, Bruce asked us to sort of think about a reflection on our work with NHRC. And you may not all know, but in my office, there's this little wooden plaque about being one of the organizing committee members from a decade ago. And I'm very proud of that. As noted, NCRC played an active role, as many others did, in creating the foundation. That's it. Thank you, Bruce.
And figure out how it works here, but right.
But Simone referenced something that people really have to understand. Back in 2011, housing counseling was zeroed out. $88 million just evaporated. I remember it very well because I had to get up at the NCRC annual conference, as the next day all of our members were going to the Hill, thank God, so they could educate members of the Hills to the important role we take. At the same time as all this was happening, we were getting through the financial crisis. And Bruce, one of my memories working with you and of course NCLC and a host of other organizations, Housing Conference, was going to the Hill to talk about the creation of the Office of Housing Counseling, the certification of counselors, and yes, the restoration of funding. And back then, in my mind, that was what really planted the seed for what has become NHRC today, that need for a voice on the Hill. And I really applaud Bruce's work and everyone's work in this space. It's so critically important. And I think everyone knows we've never really fully recovered from that loss of funding, that we're still working back towards it. And the impact of your work is really, really important. The other thing that I just want to share with you is that we really are invested to listening to you. And, I know that there is great concern about the impact of interest rate, inflation, but particularly, as Ellie was noting, the impact on FHA. And I'm going to go back to HUD literally right after this meeting to raise the concern that I've heard here today. And I'll let you know that this is an administration that does meet regularly with all of our stakeholders. So thank you for being so engaged and so involved with these important issues. And I'll stop there. But again, this is a very impactful group, and the professionalism of our industry has just expanded exponentially because of NHRC's work.
And right back at you. We're loving all the good work that you're doing. And I would just say we had an initial sponsoring committee. Simone was on that committee. So Home for USA, Lot Diaz from then it was NCLR, not Unidos US. Jennifer was on it through the Center for New York City Neighborhoods. We had it was 16 of the kind of leading housing groups, and that kind of got us going.
David Berenbaum, David Young.
NCRC, of course. What am I saying? Yes, yes. So anyways, that was all, it's all a collective action here. So that's That's good. Should we do a quick video break here?
Well, I was gonna, there's a lot of comments in the chat
good.
that
Yeah,
I wanna read a few. There's some very nice things that people have said. Angela Davidson, I'm not gonna read yours because you're here, you can talk. But Yvonne Bartley said, I concur with all of the comments. This is truly a go-to organization to help the local housing counselors with advocating and important resource information on behalf of Multicultural Development Center and Catholic Charities of North Louisiana. Mohan Lawani says, thank you all at NHRC for the dedicated service provided to housing counseling agencies. Lee Lester says, on behalf of Ubuntu Institute of Learning in Long Beach, California, we love that NHRC is always accessible to brainstorm and share ideas and be that voice for us and provide referrals to others. You all are amazing. Thank you for what you do. Patty Elam says, thank you all at NHRC. You inspire me to work harder and smarter. Toy Collins says, on behalf of the Affordable Housing Alliance here in New Jersey, congratulations on providing 10 years of service. I remember being at a NeighborWorks NTI, not sure what state, but Jennifer Murphy, hi Jennifer, introduced me to you, Bruce, and I learned about your intentions for bringing the whole housing counseling community together. I remembered how excited I was because it was something that was so needed at the time. I was excited too. You've done an awesome job. Thank you so much for all that you've done. And I'll read, let's see, from Buzz Zeman, wanting to say a few words about the time I met you. You're gonna have to type it, Buzz. Let's see, Troy Collins added, since 2008, FHA stopped underwriting deed restricted properties. Oh, this is, okay, she's not saying hello. She's saying something about FHA mortgages. We'll look at that later. Thank you. Okay, Margarita Diaz says, thank you NHRC for all you do and provide for the housing counseling industry. Congratulations on 10 great years. Enrique Delgadillo says, on behalf of Balance, congratulations on 10 years of service and commitment. And that's it.
cool.
All
Great.
right. So did you want to play a picture compilation? Is that what you mentioned?
Let's do it.
Happy 10th anniversary to the National Housing Resource Center. It's incredible to think you've been formally engaged for a decade now on doing great work on the national level to lift up the housing counseling profession and also such incredible advocacy on behalf of homeowners. It's no surprise to anyone that you are truly the experts in your field, and so many people look to you for assistance. Bruce Dorp-Halen and I, we go back over 25 years to the streets of Philadelphia when we were working with victims of the first wave of predatory mortgage lending and linking them to housing counseling and legal services in the city. Ellie Pepper and I go back well over a decade, and I really so value you working at Empire Justice Center and helping us build the homeowner protection program in New York State and really fostering our incredible network of housing counseling agencies throughout our state that I so value. I have always appreciated the value that you both and others have put on the connection between housing counseling and legal services and helping to create systems that I truly believe provide comprehensive and efficient services for homeowners, especially homeowners who are in default and foreclosure. So congratulations on all of the accomplishments of your first 10 years, and cheers for all that is yet to come and all the meaningful work that you will be doing in the future.
This is David Sanchez with the National Community Stabilization Trust. Undoubtedly, one of NHRC's huge accomplishments is connecting the housing counseling community with policymakers in DC, which brings your extremely important perspectives to bear on today's federal policy debates and initiatives. That alone is worth its weight in gold.
Do you want me to do the pictures now?
Yeah, do the pictures.
Okay, I'll do the
Let's
pictures.
some pictures. Look, see, let's see who you can recognize in these. There's a lot of them. more to come. All right. So quickly, there is NHRC swag. So there were things we did. I'm not sure if this will show up or not. We'll try it. There we go. So we had a banner.
It's green screening.
Oh, so what do I do? Get up closer?
Well, if you get rid of your background, if you get to get rid of your background.
All right. Well, that's maybe more than I understand, but okay. Anyways, this is a boutique that they made. They'll show up in a photograph. And Laura's showing one that she has too. And these are all handmade in the Gambia to honor members of NHRC. And also you'll see we gave awards to some of the congressional people on it. And there's the NHRC bag.
Oh, I still have one of those.
Yeah, I know, it still works. It's actually pretty good.
That was one of the first ones.
I know, I love that. But the one that actually was the most popular by a long shot is the NHRC mug. And look who's got them. Woo! All right. So we should have done a poll about whether we should reissue these or make a 10th anniversary mug. But anyways.
I have this too.
What?
I have this.
Yes. So what that is I try to put it up. So that's the sponsoring committee. Everybody in the sponsoring committee got one of those. And it's and we awarded it to Sarah Jarek as well because she was doing such a great job. And that was just handmade by an artisan here in Philadelphia that we knew. So that's well, there's also an umbrella, but I couldn't figure out how to get that.
I couldn't find it. I think it's in my car.
Yeah, anyway, enough is enough. Let us know if there are particular things that you think would be useful in next time we do one of these. So good. So
I'll just say Regina Gonzalez with WACOG said she has one of those bags too.
Yes, yay, good. I use it for shopping. It's just great. Let's see, just to keep us rolling here. So, and certainly if you've got any funny stories from the past or adventuresome things we did and snuck into, that would be great. We're all glad to do all of that as well. Who is it that we haven't heard from that would like to say a few words? I know Karen, you were going to.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. And again, I just want to say congratulations to NHRC, 10 years. It's really been great working with you, and the voice that you help give us LHCAs, the local housing counseling agencies, is just fantastic. I mean, I always think about with NHRC, there's always the big things you do, the funding and helping us with that, and the letters and the advocacy, which is so appreciated. But it's also some of the smaller things as well that you're able to do. Some of these small working groups that we have that we kind of get together. One story just from this past couple of weeks was we had a working group for, to help promote Section 8 home ownership, which is something my organization, Belmont Housing Resources, does a lot of. And you're able to do a small change in one of the policies, which is the policy that probably should never have been changed, and change it back to what it was originally, allowing homeowners to stay on the family self-sufficiency program. So it's little things like that that I think of NHRC and the way they help us give a voice to our work, and things that may not happen without this kind of organization. So thanks for everything you do. Thanks for being there. And I really appreciate all the good work that you and your whole team does. So thank you.
That's great. And I'm so glad you told us about it. We would not have known if you hadn't told us. So that's helpful and gives us an avenue in.
I was so excited when the regs came out, and it was on page 6, and I read it and I was like, this is what we did.
That was your issue. That was good. So this is the Section 8 home ownership voucher we're trying to get to be used much more aggressively, and still need to make more progress on. Angela, did you want to jump in?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Congratulations, Ellie, Bruce, and the whole team for the work that you do. All the speakers before me said everything that I wanted to say. Simone, she just put everything together. But I just wanted, as a young housing counselor, I met you, and I think it was in Schenectady at an MPC meeting. And I heard you speak about the Hill, and I was like, the Hill? Because I didn't understand back then. And you encouraged us to join your organization. And I jumped on right then and there, becoming a part of NHRC, working along with Ellie. There is never any question I have that is too hard for Ellie to come back and give an answer. So I appreciate all the work that you do, how you bring housing counseling together, the advocacy, and as Karen said, the letters, the sign on to make our voices heard. One thing that has stuck with me and made me know how much a great organization you are is, and this is controversial, back, the whole George Floyd issue, our house leaders in housing counselors call that month. You said to us, just talk about what you're feeling. This is not about housing counseling today, but just talk about how you're feeling. So bringing our feelings into it, our mental health, giving us a history of how things work in America, and also helping me to understand how the decisions on the Hill affects the housing counseling work. So thank you so much for all the work you do and for another 10 years.
Great, that was very helpful. Thank you. I mean, we didn't know how that would go, and it was clearly a hugely impactful conversation. Ibajoki was part of it, Simone, and others, and David Young, and that was I felt like I learned a lot from that as well, and have used some of that since then. David Young, did you want to chime in on any interesting sort of stories or things from the past you think are worth citing?
I'd be happy to, Bruce. The first thing, the thing that I'm most sad about is I was really, really happy with that NHRC umbrella. And on the way back from the summit, I left the umbrella at National Airport. So I never got to enjoy it because somebody at National Airport picked it up. So they've got it. So at least that way I was able to spread the word. I've been involved with NHRC since Housing Action became an intermediary in 2014. And, we have grown as an intermediary right along as NHRC has grown as an advocacy organization. And it's been really important for us, for our growth as a housing counseling intermediary, to have the representation from NHRC, to connect with other organizations that are doing this important work, and being brought together on a regular basis, whether it's the leaders call, whether it's the summits that we had prior to the pandemic. It has been a wonderful opportunity, and Bruce knows how much I love to work with Ellie. I probably talk to Ellie every other week. And now I get the pleasure of working with Ebony and working with Eric on the career path and some of the other things that we're doing. So it's been just very exciting. I am so grateful that NHRC is here and looking forward to all of the things that we can all do together over the next 10 and 20 years.
Cool.
So let me go to some things in the chat quickly, because we have quite a few things. Let's see. Pedro Martinez says, on behalf of Catholic Charities Atlanta, thank you for your efforts, support, and great leadership for the housing counseling agencies. Congratulations on 10 years. Let's see. Wanda Lopez. My fondest memory of Bruce was when we were on a HUD panel together. And during our drive run, I was speaking of the work we do with people with disabilities and the challenges we face. I was originally told to eliminate much of my PowerPoint because it was too much information. However, Bruce encouraged me to include it, all because many need to see it to believe it. And that provided me the confidence I needed to speak on behalf of the community we serve. Access Living from Chicago thanks you for your support, NHRC. That's a nice story.
That is great, because that's what we want to do on disability. So I'm glad. Thank you for the reminder, Wanda. Let's stay in touch.
Okay, so this is from Buzz Zeman. I attended the HUD Housing Counseling Federal Advisory Committee event along with Ellie. Bruce hosted the event, which honored several persons who benefited from housing counseling. I attended with Bronwyn Belling, my HECM mentor, was thoroughly impressed with Sarah Jarique and her support to the advisory council. One of the great things you did was hire Ellie Pepper. Oh my God, that's so nice to say. Also attended an event you came to in St. Louis, great event advising clients about housing counseling issues. Thanks for all you do. So that was one of our Deutsche Bank community events in St. Louis that he's referring to, that Buzz is referring to. And Lee Lester said that she wants a mug.
So we've gotten quite a few requests. So I think there's only, Ebony, is only like 30 or 40 of them left. So we need to think about how to do that. And Ebony's been working on maybe getting us a 10th anniversary mug that might look a little different. So we should have done a poll to figure out what people would prefer, but that's good. Yeah, so we'll figure this out.
And Bruce, some new people have joined as panelists.
Oh, good. So I see Debbie Chandler and Lot came in a little bit earlier. And
Marcia.
Oh, Marcia. Hey, Marcia. Also a member of the sponsoring committee from day one. I'm not sure if you were there when we said it, but and Unidas US as NCLR was one of the sponsoring committee members, and we actually had the sponsoring committee meeting in their offices in DC. And Marcia obviously was on the ground floor of everything we've done at sponsoring committee. So this is still an open forum, so other people want to jump in?
Well, I can jump in if I could now, Bruce.
And
welcome to everyone. You know, it's like a family reunion when we're coming to meet all of you and talk to you guys. And my God, I see our fearless leader there, David Beerbaum, all dressed up for the 10th anniversary. So I tell you guys, you know, it is a pleasure. It is a pleasure for us and Home for USA. And I know Simone has been with you all also from day one, but it is a pleasure to work with all of you. I really honestly think we are moving forward. We're taking great strides with David over at HUD and Bruce and Ellie, and you all do it with the quality work and the performance that you provide. I must say, you know, as a counseling leader, we all have to realize what we know and what we don't know. So for me, I can tell you the whole policy thing. I've got to call Bruce. Bruce, please explain this. What does this mean? I mean, what impact is this going to have on us? Tell these people that they shouldn't do da, 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 da. And I catch Bruce and I talk on a Sunday, a Saturday night when he's trying to cook dinner, and on and on and on. So this is, the relationship is good. We need a NHRC to help us to move forward. We have to together elevate our stature in not only in the community, but especially among our funders. Lot and Simone and Bruce and all of us, we know we talk about that little teeny bit of money that these people pay us, and they want $1 million worth of work. That has to stop, but it's only going to stop when we all sort of come together, and Bruce has all these signed on letters, and you know that we have to really stand up for what we believe. We've got to push forward with the fight. We need to let the world and the mortgage industry know that, as Simone calls us, the real America. This is Black people, white people, Asian, Hispanic, everybody. We're all working together for a common good to make our people better. And when the people are better, the country's better. We're all better. The nonprofits, we will be better, and we'll certainly make a difference as we're moving forward. So this is the 10th anniversary. Certainly there'll be a 20th and a 30th and a 40th. Now the question is, are we gonna be around but for the 40th anniversary? I don't know. They may not want to see us in the 40th anniversary, but nonetheless, kudos to you guys. You're doing great. Continue with the fight, and let's all continue to work together.
Terrific.
Bruce, let me just add something. First of all, great, Marcia. It's well said. My only comment here is that it's nice to see something work out better than you actually thought it was, right?
Yeah.
And because when you brought up the idea, it became obvious, we need something between all our organizations that really can stand up for the stuff that's important in our work and for the clients that we work. And so I just instinctively knew this was of value to begin with. And between you and the team has changed into something that's exceptional. And I really appreciate that and kind of look at it as a little bit something to be proud of as being a part of the initial group that got the kind of launched the whole thing. And so want to say thank you to all the staff and the new staff. There's new and old staff. It's great to see something turn out much bigger and better than we could have imagined at the beginning. So thanks for all that.
Cool. So Debbie, do you want to say a couple words? I know you just chimed in, so we'll put you on spot and then we might move to another video. Oh, can't hear you. So I think I just heard your, do you want to say something? Oh, okay. All right. Well, work on that and we'll have other opportunities because we have a lot more to come. So unless we want to really jump in the last moment here, why don't we move to the next video? Okay. So first things is that there was a White House meeting. So we've been working with Sarah to try to get the administration to elevate housing counseling. And so there were several parts to it. You saw the visit that Obama and Secretary Castro had done in Arizona. And there have been, and we're getting somebody's background sound there.
But we can hear Debbie now. Weren't you having trouble hearing Debbie before?
So problem solved. We'll be back in a moment. But so one of the things, and you'll see a picture in one of the streams that we helped put together, and Sarah really led the lead on this, was to have a White House event on housing counseling and really honoring some of the homeowners who, against the odds, became homeowners through housing counseling. And it was a way of elevating housing counseling. And the wonderful thing was they brought in these groups from Hawaii as well. And so when we walked in the door, they gave a number of us these leis. So as part of the party here, and they were really kind and stuff like that. So you'll see them show up in one of the slides going forward. So Debbie, do you want to jump in real quick?
Okay, let's do a test. Am I audible?
Beautiful.
All right. So I heard it was a celebration. So I hope you can see my little happy birthday sign back here.
Hey.
And I know I can't share this with you, but we brought you a fudge chocolate cake.
Yay! All right.
And
I'm pretty bummed you can't share that with us.
I know, right? So congratulations, NHRC. You guys are an amazing organization. And it actually occurred to me this morning, the first time I joined, I was new to housing counseling about 9 years ago. I had come from running a micro enterprise organization. And I didn't know who you guys were, but I got this invite to get on your call. And I'm like, okay, let me see what's going on. So I got on your call and I was absolutely amazed and impressed about what I didn't know and what you guys could bring to me as a new leader in the housing counseling field. And honestly, ever since then, your organization has been so much help and so much support and always on the mark. I sing your praises all the time. And what I didn't know is that you were still a fairly young organization at that time. So it didn't show. You guys look like you were amazing rock stars to me. So it was really great. And then sometime down the road, when you had the amazing Ellie Pepper join your team, that's for Ellie. It's just fabulous. So you've just been a great support all along, as everyone has said. I would just share a little event. I'm sorry about the light. I'm in Arizona and the sun's shining, and I'm sharing all my sunshine with you guys.
It's a good thing.
You all came to Arizona when we did the Deutsche Bank event in Phoenix for home buyers. And that was really a wonderful experience working with you guys. We had to pull a couple rabbits out of hats, as I remember, Ellie, you and I. But we pulled it off, and it was really a great thing to see you all face to face for the first time, work with you, and have people show up at the event. And the support that came from your organization to pull that off was tremendous. And so I just say that was really fun. It was so good. I got to have dinner with Bruce, and I thought I was so lucky to be able to sit and talk to you, Bruce, for a couple hours, because you are a wealth of amazing history, background, knowledge, and forward thinking. And I really benefited from that dinner. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember we had dinner together?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, congratulations to all of you. I'll eat a piece of chocolate cake on your behalf.
Good. Have two.
And I just would comment, I don't know if we're on part 2 about, you said what things, do you want to see going forward? Are we in part 2 yet?
We are big. Good segue. So why don't you start us off, and then I'll jump in with the intro.
All right. I brought up the Deutsche Bank event because I think that one of the things that NHRC could help us do more of, and I don't know if you have enough resources to do it, or funding, or how you do this necessarily successfully for all. But I think those events and more of those kinds of events, and finding lenders and people who would support us doing those events would be a huge help. If you were able to, move to certain areas of the country, and not move, but travel to certain areas of the country and pull those off. I see this industry moving, back to home buyers, as difficult as it's going to be with the affordability issue and all of the issues that we're building resources for in the future. But the mortgage foreclosure funding and focus, even though we're still pretty busy with it, that is going to taper off, and we're going to be back to one of our main missions, which is to create home ownership in America. I'm a Unidos affiliate, and they have their huge commitment to increasing Hispanic ownership. So I just think that would be a really great support if we could do more of it with NHRC, because you're like the 60,000-pound gorilla. And we're just this little agency here in Arizona, in Phoenix and Tucson, and in the rural parts of Arizona. So that's my comment about what you could do. Otherwise, I think you guys are doing everything you need to do. Your speakers are fantastic. You're always on the topics of the money of the topics of the day and the topics of money. I love your work on the Hill. So that's my only ask.
So we're a gorilla. Got it. I'm so glad you said that, because Ellie and I and Eric and Ebony and Christy, one of the things we've really been we were really excited last year about a lot of the outreach work that we were doing, but it was also getting clear that there wasn't that much support for it. And so I'm trying to think of, well, maybe what we should do is really go to the industry and see if we can't create some opportunity to do more of these and figure out where the gaps are. I mean, I think some markets that you've got this already mastered and you don't need it. We're not interested in coming in where we're not needed. We want to go where the gaps are, where things aren't working the way they should be, and making those things happen. And maybe the markets that don't get as much attention in the scheme of things. So that's actually a very helpful comment. And we will.
Great, thank you.
Yes, and I know Ellie's probably cooking ideas up already now. Very helpful.
Well,
So-
and if I can help in any way, I'm happy to help participate. We
Yeah.
worked together very successfully on the Deutsche Bank event, so I'm volunteering.
All right, good. Don't worry, we got you all on speed dial. We'll get back to you. So moving to phase 2. So this is kind of future looking. So everybody in the audience, what kind of webinars do you want to hear from us? What kind of leaders in housing counseling webinars do you want to start hearing? And think about it, things of what are the gaps? What are the pieces that you'd like to know more about? Should we do more on disabilities? Should we do more on on FHA? Should we do more on rental marketplace? I feel like that's one that's being addressed already. So you just let us know kind of where the pieces are that are missing, and we really helps us out. So I'm going to do my best to walk through who we think is on the panel this time along, and if I leave out anybody, just let me know. So we've got Marcia. And then we still have Laura Buxbaum, David Birnbaum for a half an hour, David Young from Housing Action Illinois, Simone Griffin from Home for USA, Lou Tisler we've got for half an hour with NNA, Angela Davidson from NHS Brooklyn, Ibajoki Akanabwale from NCRC, Karen Hausman-Yetman from Belmont, Susan Fitz, who's standing in for Helen Renault, who really wanted to be here, was really nice, from CCSMD, Lot Diaz. So we've got Lot for a while now, so that's good. Unitas US, Debbie Chandler from ARC, Sylvia Alvarez from HEA. And did I leave anybody out? Okay. So
Did you call out James?
Oh, James Ruddick. James from Northwest Center. Good. All right. Glad to have you. So this section is devoted to what should we be doing in the future. So is there somebody who would like to start, or should I just call
Bruce?
in? Yes.
I'll jump in. Again, the first one.
Thank you for not being as shy as you usually are.
Well, I have to tell you, I can only speak to what we're seeing here in our area, and we work with like 5 different counties. We're working hard in the mortgage and rental space. We're with programs that are actually trying to keep people from homelessness, and it is really getting dire out here. In fact, Tampa, I saw a chart. We're like number 2 in the country with the highest rental over most of the country, and people are going to be thrown out. We're having to run and send checks to people, deliver people money in the middle of the night, practically, to keep people in their homes because they're getting evicted the next day. And it's really difficult to try to explain to someone that you're counseling that they can afford only a $700 mortgage, and then they come back and tell you, what are you saying? And then I'm going to have to go pay $1,500 a month to rent a 1-bedroom apartment. The rentals, how do you explain the logic? We try to do the best we can by saying that, we're trying to avoid another foreclosure crisis from ever happening again. But when these people are paying 50 and 60% of their income toward rent, it's becoming a dire situation. In fact, I saw on the news this morning, there's a lot of people who've been evicted that they've set up tents in the front of one of the county offices because they've got no other place to go. And this is different from the last housing crisis. The last housing crisis, it was everywhere. You were bombarded with it all the time. Now it's just getting a little bit of media, and we need to elevate that. There's going to be a ton of homeless people. I don't know about other parts of the country. I know that here, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, Orange County that we work in, Palm Beach County that we work in, they're all suffering from horrible rental issues. We had one client, his rent went up from $1,500 a month to $2,800 a month. It's just, and we're talking about a 2-bedroom apartment, 1 bath. So it's really dire. There's a lot of people trying to, come up with solutions, but nothing has happened yet. We don't have rent control here, and I wish we did. That would really help this problem, but that's just my 2 cents on what we need to be looking at. I'm a home ownership person all the way, but seeing what I'm seeing, we need to address rentals as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, last year we did this whole thing on cash buyers, and there's going to be a second conversation that starts up around with Americans for Financial Reform around especially the role of private equity investors taking over apartment complexes and also buying up wholesale single family houses that would normally be first-time homebuyer housing stock, and really trying to work on that. And there's some interesting things kicking around in Congress, and we're in touch with a number of those offices. We haven't quite figured out the perfect solution yet, but this is absolutely very high on our minds, and I appreciate you bringing it up. But it's and the striking thing was that it used to be that the issue was on the east and west coasts, but we're now hearing about it in Indiana, we're hearing about it in Nebraska, we're hearing about it in many markets. So key issue here.
Yeah. Hey, Bruce, this is James. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for having me join you all. And Sylvia, it's always good to see you and hear you in a while. I know you're asking us to look forward, and I have thoughts on that, but just maybe if I could take 30 seconds of personal privilege here. I think one of the most unique and exciting and impactful things about you all is your ability to pull all of us together as thought leaders, as compadres in this work, as folks that are doing this together as the best and the brightest across the country. And as much of all of our communities vary and differ in terms of who we serve, we're often dealing with similar challenges. And there's really not a place like this in the country that's focused on bringing together leaders in housing counseling in this way. And so I just wanted to say that because it feels really important and really impactful that you all have been doing that for 10 years in this way with us. And I know, Bruce, it started with you, and now I look at the team of 5, and it's really grown and expanded. So I'm really grateful to you and to the entire team for that. As we look forward, I echo everything Sylvia said, and I think a lot of us probably all experience in our own communities. I think our work in counseling and coaching and wraparound income supports work and all the great things that we do, building housing, helping get folks rent to own, all of that has to be combined with that policy and systems change work. If we're not advocating for rent control, stabilization, principal reduction, and modifications, which I know, Bruce, you and the team have done, then we're going to keep counseling folks until we're all long gone, which is always going to be needed, but it has to be combined with that substantive real change. And I'm inspired to see friends at HUD and in other offices, and we're starting to see that happen. But I really wanted to bring that lens and make sure that we don't forget that it's not just the day-to-day work that we're doing, but that broader policy work that is really going to be what changes us. If our states, if our cities start to actually do things that help working class and poor families obtain housing and build wealth through housing and wealth generation, then we're going to start to see things change. And so as we counsel, we have to also push our legislators, the administration, locally and nationally on these issues as well. So thank you for all that you've done. It's really great to be with you all, and excited to continue this for another 10.
So that's great. And let me just on this question of bringing people together, I tend to think about us doing kind of these thematic events where we bring in some expertise and kind of get people to chime in. I mean, it's not impossible for us to sort of figure out how to put together events that might be Zoom events or whatever that are a little bit more free flowing and people can kind of talk in general in a more peer-to-peer exchange. I mean, what has really struck me is in the 10 years that we've been doing this is how much more mature and how much more in depth the housing counseling world is. I mean, that people are, I mean, they're both very good counselors, but they also have a much bigger view of what this work means and what it is. And so I'm wondering if that would be something that people are interested in, and any thoughts that people have on what that might look like. You know, we will always do these sort of bring in experts and do thematic things, but is there some need for more peer-to-peer something?
If I might answer that, Bruce, it's Marcia again. Number one, in terms of bringing people together, I want to mention that we are giving Bruce and NHRC an award, a Community Champion Award at our Reaching Millions conference in New Orleans. This is going to be on September, I think September 19th. And anybody, we'd love to have any of you to come when we talk about sort of brainstorming and coming up with ideas. David Birnbaum gave me some really good ideas. So we are infusing a session. This is on the 18th. So that nonprofit leaders could really speak to David. Bruce hopefully will be there to really talk about what we need, what direction would we like to see for HUD, as well as I have to add in the GSEs because Sandra Thompson will also be there and she wants our views, which kind of takes me to the next thing. So Bruce, in terms of what NHRC, I think we need to do more of, we need to have maybe a component of NHRC or a consultant or something to help everyone, you guys, get the word out on activities that we have. I mean, there just needs to be more verbiage, more out in the community, more in the media and the press about our work and the benefits that that we provide. And I mean, these are the customers of these banks, and these are the residents for these governments across the country. So we definitely need to have more outreach, ways to get the word out, and maybe that is something that you could get somebody else to fund. I also like the sign-on letters. Bruce, you know, having 100 people sign a letter in support of XYZ makes a huge difference. And I just encourage you, look, for all of us, if there are policies and directions that need to be changed, and one that I just kind of comes to mind right now is the fact that with the GSEs, only 4% of the loans that they buy are from Black and Brown communities. That's ridiculous. I mean, this is their mission. This is their mission. So this is just something small. The sign-on letters are very impactful. And look, Sylvia, girl, how are you? I'm so happy to see Sylvia. I haven't seen her in years, but she hit on something that is also very critical, and that's the help for renters. As you all know, all of these cities and states and counties, they got large sums of money, billions from Treasury, CARES Act, homeowner assistance, and all of that. A lot of these governments, they're either returning the money or don't know how to spend the money, or, you know, it's just kind of sitting. And this is something that we really, really need to take a much closer look at. I can tell you with through the National League of Cities, I've spoken to several mayors. Oh, they think they're good. But I said, well, how much money have you guys got now for rental assistance or homeowner assistance? Well, you know, I don't know, we're paying the nonprofits a fee for service if they channel applications. And I'm thinking, look, the nonprofits, we need money up front. A fee for service on the back end doesn't help us. But these are just some things. I appreciate those comments, those rental comments, the sign-on letters, and any of you that are interested and can come down to our conference in New Orleans on September 18th, 19th, and 20th. David Birnbaum will also be speaking on the 19th, and Bruce will get his award on the 19th. Love to have you.
Cool.
So I think this is a good time. I don't know, David Birnbaum, if you need to leave at 2:30, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to say a few words in closing.
Ellie, thank you, because I was hoping to jump in. It is a firm meeting at 2:30 that have to be on with that leadership. First, I have really enjoyed this conversation, both looking back and looking forward. I want the group to know that as we were meeting, HUD just released on its website a document that has been a priority within HUD for the past 10 months to produce. It's an economic justice agenda to help low-income renters build assets. How on point to the conversation we're having right now, right? If you read it carefully, you will see that housing counseling is part of this agenda. It is connected to an OFO with regard to family self-sufficiency, but the level of commitment to looking in on this issue is much greater than that. I can share with you that my team is having conversations with all of the offices who touch renters who are HUD consumers. It's a rather straightforward idea. Within our own programs, we have never outreached to those consumers directly as HUD users of our programs, whether it's Section 8, multifamily housing, the list goes on, to educate them about the availability of housing counseling to explore financial opportunity and financial wellness overall. We're in the early stages of doing our due diligence, but it connects to some of the activities that you have been very active on, such as the use of the Choice Voucher Program to expand homeownership. This is something I'm very excited about, because if you were in the private sector, it would just make sense to engage with your existing consumers to build your relationship with them. And I am sure that we look at the needs of these consumers, a very large percentage of them, a surprising percentage of them, may be ready for homeownership and would benefit from housing counseling. So if we take the idea of what we did with Lost Mit, sending out a letter to all FHA consumers who were behind, saying speak with a housing counselor, and engage it and apply it to homeownership to tenants, it's win-win for all of us in building what we do. I also want to note one more opportunity to think about. We have been very focused in trying to bring the resources of other HUD programs to you, to make you aware of how to approach your entitlement communities who are funded through CPD or other HUD offices so that you can receive other sources of federal monies. But I commend you because you're such a large and vibrant organization. Look at what's happening in New York. Look what's happening in California, where the states themselves are realizing the important work that's being done to support housing counseling, and use your state affiliations. Like when you lobby on Capitol Hill, go to your state lawmakers and educate them to the important work you're doing so that you can tap into state resources. The time is right for that because they see the important role that you're doing as a result, unfortunately, of the pandemic. It's a perfect time to transfer that to other good works that you would like to do. And I could go on forever and ever in an ideation session with you, and I look forward to having those conversations. But the main thing is, again, congratulations for the great work that all of you are doing as a team, the staff, the leadership, the founders, the next generation of counselors working with you. We are here at the Office of Housing Counseling to work collaboratively with you, listen to you, and my hope is to really transform the program so that we're really moving in some great, fresh directions together. So thank you, everyone, and I'm sorry I have to drop off.
Excellent. So,
Thanks, David.
Lou, I know you have to go too. Do you want to, is there anything you want to say about maybe our congressional work?
You know what? I think that it may get even a little bit more difficult. I hope that it doesn't, but I think that it's important that we continue to reach out to those that we may think are not on our side, because we're going to need them. And so in the next congressional session, I think that anybody who's new, we need to reach out, no matter what side of the aisle they are on, and try to make those relationships. We should try to move opponents to neutral, neutral to proponents, and proponents to ambassadors. I say that all the time. This is going to be key to doing that. And most of the time you're going to talk to staffers. Those staffers are going to move around. So it's going to be important for them to understand what housing counseling is in terms of moving forward. There's going to be a lot of new leadership. Even if the majority stays, there's going to be new leadership. We're going to need to make new or at least deeper relationships. So advocacy is important. Many organizations at times, your boards will say, oh, we can't do advocacy. We're a 501c3. I think it's very important that you educate your board and make them advocates too, and just continue on. I apologize that I need to take off, but advocacy is going to be key in terms of moving things forward. And you never know when that relationship is going to bear fruit. And you could sit there and they can rail on you and tell you that you're a socialist liberal program, you're a communist, etc. But if you're from there, if you're a constituent of theirs, they need to at least give you that time. And so at times it's difficult to sit there and take it, but you never know what's going to change or what's going to switch them. If one of their relatives all of a sudden become foreclosed on or can't buy a house, all of a sudden it's a huge issue and you have the answers. And so be ready to work even harder. So from going to 120% to 160%. But the thing is that in the next 10 years, with NHRC helping to elevate housing counseling even further, looking at the new paradigm of working remotely, maybe not 100% remotely, but providing that counseling service, and looking at the new homeowners who are coming in. And we're not going to be able to work on those who are just ready to buy a home, because with the way that interest rates and housing costs are going, it's going to take a while for people to get in. So patience, advocacy, and every now and then a little happy hour like you saw in Bruce's photo, and we'll be able to make a difference. So again, thank you very much. Congratulations. And I'll see all you guys soon.
Excellent. And
Thanks, Lou.
always good. And Christie's actually all over this. So we're actually meeting quite regularly with Republicans. 10 years ago, these were not always good conversations. There was always questions about effectiveness and money spent. We never get that anymore. We're in a completely different environment, and there's huge recognition. And one of the strengths of what Christie's doing is we're bringing local constituents from their states into the conversation. So absolutely respond when Christie writes you, because boy, this is what makes us tick, and part of our strength, our secret strength.
So would you like to see another picture compilation?
That sounds great. So other thoughts about what we should be working on in the future, or ideas on leaders and housing counseling calls?
It's funny that you guys point that picture out. I'm wearing the exact same thing that I was.
Oh my God, you are.
Oh, that's funny.
That's funny. I should probably play the Mega Millions, but I'll say this. One of my favorite things about this team is just how responsive NHRC is to filling in the gap. And so I'm reminded of very much so the counselor certification exam, and Ellie and I looking at spreadsheets and like, well, how do we make study buddy groups, and like who's having problems with what our more seasoned counselors are, and should we pair them with newer ones? And so I know there's so many working groups and collaborative efforts that happen because of the entire NHRC team. And so I wanted to call that out as something that I recognize is critically important on how we truly recover from this pandemic. And so, true to prior years, the work that your team has done is going to be really imperative on the tone that we set for our work moving forward. When we talk about addressing the racial gap in home ownership and the disconnect in terms of the consumer interests and our funder priorities, with folks still very much so needing access to rental and foreclosure services, but the challenges and barriers for people of color accessing homeownership growing and amounting the longer this pandemic continues. And so I think it's really important for the work moving forward that you guys are very much so active in holding all parties accountable in finding the solutions to really moving the needle forward on this. One thing that I also know is really important to the NHRC team and to many, if not all on the line, is the future leaders of housing counseling, and how do we continue to generate new interests in our field, knowing that the requirements are becoming a little bit more challenging for folks. Every day I'm hearing of folks losing their counselors because they're having difficulty passing the certification exam, needing more competitive rates to be able to attract new counselors and encourage folks in this space. And so I do think it's vitally important that we are training folks up and helping to establish a career path, something that I know that everyone on this line is very focused on, but we're going to need NHRC's help and to continue to elevate those leaders and to make the connections for additional opportunities so that we can do the real work ahead.
Excellent point. And David, I know you've been doing a lot of work on this. Do you have a few thoughts?
I do have a couple of things, Bruce. Thank you for the opportunity to participate. There are a couple of things that I think are all tied together, and they're things that NHRC has been working on and needs to continue working on. Most of you know that we have been very much engaged in technology, working on data standardization, and we actually have just submitted our proposed housing counseling data set to the Mortgage Industry Standards Maintenance Organization, and we expect that next year the data set will be approved, or the data standard will be approved. And what that will do will be will allow us to better show our impacts and outcomes as an industry, but it also improves the communication between the various partners in the financial services industry. And I say partners specifically because sometimes we know that other organizations don't necessarily see us as a partner. They think of us as a stumbling block, that we hold up originations, but we are a partner. And with this technology, with this data standard, we are going to be in a better position to communicate and move forward and show the asset that we are to originations and everyone else to create more home buyers. So we are very excited about that. What that also is going to mean for our industry is that we're going to be in a better position to promote and advocate for fee for service, which is so important to the work that we're doing. There are great resources from HUD and from other places that help us do our work day to day, but it's not enough to be able to do this. And so by improving our technology, we will better be able to advocate for fee for service, which is going to help us serve more people. With those fee-for-service revenue, it also means that we're going to be in a position to expand our career path. And we are working now. Housing Action Illinois launched its career path training in January of 2022, along with the National Housing Resource Center's Housing Counselor Jobs Board. So that way, individuals that are going through this housing counseling training, once they pass the certification exam, have the ability to upload their resume, and then also can see positions that have been posted by HUD-approved housing counseling agencies. So we are really in a position now, with NHRC's help, to expand the pool of qualified housing counselors, and then with fee-for-service revenue to provide them with the wage that they deserve for the work they're doing, and then have the technology to help us help more people not only to purchase their homes, but also to stay in their homes. Just as a quick example, what technology and what this data standard are going to allow us to do is, if there is a person that is late on their mortgage, their servicer will be able to send the file to the housing counseling agency so that the housing counseling agency could start to triage and assist that client immediately. Do you know how important that's going to be, how much time that's going to save, how much of a relief it's going to be to that homeowner that is wondering what they're going to be able to do? So all of these technologies coming together, with the help of NHRC and HUD and our industry, is just going to be fantastic. And I'm very excited to be part of this and grateful to NHRC for leading this effort.
Thank you for your leadership on both counts. Very important stuff for all of us. Lot, I know you have a lot of thoughts about kind of where the industry should be going. Do you have some thoughts that we want to share about?
Sure. Thank you, Bruce. Just a couple things. I want to just buttress the advocacy work, but it's going to be advocacy on housing policy. Housing counseling is a big piece of that. More money for construction and new single-family homes is going to be a big piece of that. And just policy provisions that protect the single-family housing market in ways that the foreclosure crisis and turning single-family homes completely into a commodity rather than a place for people to live are going to be key themes that we're going to have to think about going forward. But I think the major one is related to what David was saying, is for us anyways, how technology is going to be incorporated into our work going forward. We're trying to dabble, how do we use visual, video sessions with clients? When does that work? When it doesn't work? Does it prove to be more effective? Is your telephony system help you connect with clients, maintain your pipeline? Similarly, your CMS should be oriented to do the same. And then the last piece of this, which is what David spoke of so clearly, is the ability to share data with partners to kind of improve the experience that our clients and a bank's potential customer would have. I think that's the stuff that is going to make fee-for-service a little easier for private industry to understand. The idea, I remember back for those of you who've been at it for a while, essentially anytime a client went to us, they duplicated their experience when they went to the LO, meaning collect documents and have the same conversations about the ratios and stuff like that. And so the hope is, and there is a pilot that we're trying to kind of get off the ground, that I think its core purpose is to align the work that a housing counseling agency in a local market working with a lender can more effectively kind of communicate and do one of two good things: shorten the time a family has to get through the process. One, two, the chances of success for a pre-purchase clients will go way up because they would have been vetted and educated prior to going through the process. Would then the kind of the value transaction between our industries would be really clear to see. And so I think, we're going to go into a relatively low resource period coming up here. I mean, I don't see the NFM or so the HSCP or the other treasury program that was put out there to to save people's housing situation or improve them. So we're going back to what I call more traditional funding modes. Knock on wood, I hope there is no new crisis to change what I just said. And so all these things are going to become more and more and more important. And I think that's, to me, that's kind of what our focus is going to be on with our network. And, as these issues percolate to something, hard and fast, we'll hope to be able to share it with the NHRC family as well.
Absolutely. And I think the other innovation that you're really working on is to get delinquencies that, I'm sorry, not delinquencies, to get rejects, so people who've been declined on mortgages, getting them referred directly to housing counseling. And it's one of the things that we'll want to raise up with FHFA and as well, to try to create those kind of best practices in the world to get the right people to us at the right time. That sounds really, really helpful. Do we want to do another video compilation?
Well, we've done all of the pictures, but I did want to read one comment that was in the chat from Toy Collins about something to be thinking about for the future. In 2008, FHA stopped underwriting deed restricted properties. That's an issue and a barrier for low to moderate income households, and mostly negatively impacts people of color who purchase homes under affordable housing programs in a variety of states. I think that is an issue that needs to be addressed as soon as possible.
My colleagues at Ocwen, we're excited to celebrate your 10-year anniversary. Ocwen is proud to support the work that you do to strengthen the housing counseling community. We look forward to partnering with NHRC for many years to come. Congratulations.
On behalf of Freedom Mortgage, we are wishing you a very happy 10-year anniversary. We can't thank you enough for your partnership.
Happy 10th anniversary, NHRC.
Happy 10th anniversary to Bruce and the team at NHRC.
And some of you might recognize Patrick McInerney from Freedom Mortgage. He was with Deutsche Bank when we were doing the Deutsche Bank events, and now he's with Freedom Mortgage. And we've been doing some outreach events helping them with outreach events to their homeowners that are potentially eligible for HAF.
Great. So Karen.
Yeah, and thanks again. One more thing I was going to mention, something I think we're all going to be working on, and it's kind of been alluded to a little bit, is, the recovery stages after COVID now. We're going to see homeowners who, they were out of work for a while, like their credit's not going to be where it needs to be, their savings isn't going to be where it needs to be. And there's going to be a lot of, trauma that happened, maybe from family members or, new responsibilities and things like that have happened. And so I know it's mentioned, a lot, but, starting to think about, working with communities that had a lot of trauma over the past few years, how we're going to work with them, how we're going to serve them, be respectful, and then how we're going to help recover after everything post-COVID.
So that is a really good point. And so I'm wondering if there are resources for assisting people with trauma. I know this shows up a lot in conversations about social service delivery. And are we addressing this in the housing counseling world? And is this something that we should try to bring into the list?
Yeah, and I think, there is some conversations happening and, some of like the groups I'm part of, but I think as a community, I think as a professional organization here, that we all need to think about moving forward with serving those that have had trauma and, the way that they need to be, some different ways to help, so I know some organizations are doing things, I've gotten some training on it, but I think there's a lot more that can happen in the housing counseling community around it.
So help us figure out what the right resources are to match what's out there. I know NCRC has done a little bit of work in this field, and if there are others, please let us know. Who else would like to jump in?
I would. Go ahead, go ahead, Angela.
Okay, I just
I'm
wanted
going to stop putting my hand up though, because that's not working. So.
Oh, I don't see it actually. You're right. Yeah,
it's been up a few times, but that's it. But Angela, you go.
Okay.
No, Laura, you go. You had your hand up. I'll wait.
I actually wanted to talk I wanted to catch Lou before he left, but I wasn't quick enough. And tell him to thank you for so generally speaking, thinking about fee for service, I loved that he put up this CRA comment, and I am not done with my CRA comment yet. We're working on it to submit tomorrow, so I'm going to incorporate that. But I am thinking, generally speaking, about sort of the sustainability of housing counseling and various sources of funding. And I do want to circle back to what a few people have said and say we really still have to push hard on appropriations. I mean, we can't count only on HUD, clearly, and we have to think about ways to diversify our revenue sources. But we really have to sort of keep that pressure up and make sure that Congress really understands the value of the housing counseling and the link, particularly with what David Berenbaum was saying about linking housing counseling to an economic justice agenda for renters. Well, yeah, housing counseling is going to be a piece of that, but they have to, if there's going to be more, they have to help to support that. So just
people if you don't have money.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so no, that's all. Okay,
go
ahead.
Two really good things. So one is we should figure out how to go back to Susan Collins. She is a key component to all this, and we really are having a tough time. So let's revisit that. And on the CRA comments, we do have a whole CRA thing in housing counseling. I'll be sure to send this to you. The fee
That's actually the link that Lou provided was actually to our comments, Bruce.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, but it was the first I'd seen them, and I've been working on our CRA comment for a couple of weeks.
We sent that, we kind of last minute the email went out yesterday.
Okay, my bad. I'm glad he highlighted it. And yeah, I'll work with you. We'll work with you on Senator Collins and see what we can do. It's tough, but she is in a key position, and she may be in an even more key position next year. So
I completely agree. And Christie's really been doing a yeoman's job on all this. And we are talking to a lot of Republican offices. We're talking to Shelby shortly. He's retiring, but so we completely agree and are really trying to up our game here. Cool. Angela, your turn now.
Thank you, Bruce. So my comment has to do with going forward. Look at AMI and conforming limits. In New York, we know prices have gone through the roof, and most homeowners people looking to buy cannot afford the homes here, especially with the income limits so low and the conforming price on houses so low. So I don't know what could be done around AMI and conforming limits. And then the other piece is, and I know David is working hard on that, about housing counseling being needed across the board as people look to buy. And in the earlier, someone spoke about a marketing campaign. I think that is something that can be done. As Sylvia said, the people looking to buy homes are the consumers of these banks. And I think they need to know how important housing counseling is to the people who are looking to become first-time home buyers. And I think once they walk in, there should be pamphlets letting them know that maybe the first step to buying a house, talking to a loan officer, is getting housing counseling, because that is important. In the foreclosure work that I do, most of the people who are in foreclosure never received housing counseling. The ones that receive housing counseling, they understand. And so we find that we do not have so much default with those, but others who just go out and get private loans, people need to understand more. So I do think counseling and a marketing campaign around that is something we could look forward to. Thank you.
Good. Definitely getting those wheels turning. This is very, very helpful. We're going to do more this fall about trying to pave the way for 2023 around that. We do need to think about some more avenues on funding. Certainly the work that Lot talked about for fee-for-service is a really important step, but you kind of have to have enough volume for it to work, and that's getting tougher in this market. So we're worried about this. Yes.
Hey, just a thought I had. This was a very effective meeting. I'm sure you guys worked really hard to put it all together, but instead of waiting another 10 years and celebrating your 20th anniversary, maybe you could do an annual meeting like this, where we all get together and do exactly what we just did. What progress did we make this year? What do you want to do for the next year coming up? Because I think that everybody in this meeting is really happy that we're having it, and it's very beneficial for both sides of the house. And so I suggest you try to do it annually.
So so one of the questions is, should we do an in-person meeting in 2023? And should we do it in the middle of the country, or should we do it in DC where the policymakers are and we can get them in? I always feel like when we do something, we really want to, when we ask people to travel, we really need to have opportunities that really are impactful. So, you can always do a good presentation, but the real job here is, how do we move the dial forward? And each of the leaders in housing counseling meetings that we did were really aimed at kind of very substantial goals to move things forward. So those are kind of the things that weigh on us, but, I'd be interested if people, so if we had an in-person meeting, and let's say it's in DC, we'll have a different Congress by then. If we do an in-person meeting in DC in 2023, this is not a binding contract, but would you come? Yes? Okay.
We have 3 minutes, Bruce.
Yeah, so put it in the stream if you think you'd be able to come as well. And if you don't think you would come, be candid with us. I mean, we have to figure these things out. And one of the nice things is you guys, you don't usually lie to us. So we deeply appreciate that. So I'm just going to tie this all together. I mean, this has been very useful. I mean, actually, I'll just say I'm pretty safe in speaking for the staff and saying this is deeply meaningful. I mean, we really appreciate you all. We appreciate everything you're doing in the field, but we appreciate when you step up and are engaged with the work too that we do. And it's really your work, it's collective action that makes it work. And, this has been great. There are a lot of takeaways from this. And I am absolutely committed to us working on trying to figure out how to raise money for outreach now. I've been trying to think about this for the last couple of months, but this kind of gives me a framework that we and figuring out which doors to knock on. So those are pieces of that. If you have some brilliant ideas of who might be interested in funding these things, please let us know. We do really need to raise the money for this, but barring a settlement coming out of the blue, out of nowhere, which is really what happened with Deutsche Bank, we're going to need to figure out how to pay the bills going forward, and that's a piece of our work. So, Ellie, do you have any closing thoughts quickly?
I don't. I just, it's really nice to hear from everybody. And I love the idea of an in-person meeting next year. So I'm psyched that people are excited for that. So let's start planning.
Okay, great. Well, so maybe we're at that big point of closeout. So we want to just
All the
thank-
NHRC staff have to unmute themselves.
all right. So this is a big moment for us. This has been a terrific conversation. And I think what we want to say collectively from our staff to you all is we want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah. All right. Keep up the good work. We're there with you.